Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. Skip explains how LeBron sitting out tonight could be a little shot at the round mound of rebounds. Shannon says Jerry Jones has talked himself out of trading Tony Romo. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is here to give us some background information on Steph Curry reacting to the political comments of Under Armour CEO Kevin Plank. Actor and New York Knicks superfan Michael Rappaport comes in to defend Knick legend Charles Oakley and leaves with the hashtag #FreeOakley. Plus, the debate continues on when Rob Parker comes in to talk about the comments from Pro Football Hall of Fame Selection Committee member Dan Fouts on Terrell Owens being left out in Canton. Skip and Shannon, any words about the King?
I can't wait to hear how you attempt to defend your man, LeBron James, this time.
Defend him for what? What
for
did he
what?
do?
Oh, did he do it? He's doing it again.
Y'all haters.
Yeah.
Well, let's find out. Let's get it started with the Cavs. LeBron James scored 25 points in the win against the Pacers last night, but the question has been LeBron's minutes. LeBron is second in the NBA, playing nearly 38 minutes per game. Yesterday, LeBron said he's fine with the amount of minutes he's playing, but Ty Lue said there's a good possibility LeBron, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love won't play tonight at Oklahoma City. Interesting. Skip, what do you make of this?
Yeah, Skip, what do you make of this?
I make of it that LeBron James is boycotting a Thursday night TNT nationally televised basketball game to get even with Charles Barkley. I don't know that for a dead solid fact, but I'm going 2 + 2 = big 4 over here, or maybe big 3, speaking of Cleveland Cavaliers, because LeBron James obviously runs this organization. He calls the shots. And not only is he going to skip this game, but he's going to make sure that Kyrie and Kevin Love, the big 3, all skip this game to wreck TNT's ratings. And we all know, reiterating one more time, that Charles delivered some valid criticism of LeBron's whining about he needed more help. That was 2 weeks ago. Then they went back and forth. And once again, LeBron James looks really bad here. This is really childish on his part. This is so beneath the dignity of a man I have repeatedly called the best role model in sports. And I'm starting to waver on that now because LeBron's starting to unravel, I told you, emotionally. I've been doing this now for 2 weeks. I've been saying he's starting to come apart and act completely out of character.
You see his numbers?
Well, again, I'm not talking about his performance. I'm talking about all of his actions after games, all of his whining, all of his firing back at Charles Barkley. So he tried to, quote unquote, kill the messenger in Charles Barkley by disqualifying or discrediting the messenger by taking personal shots at Charles' lack of character as a player. We all know about that, but that does not disqualify or discredit the message that Charles delivered, which was right on point. Anybody who's watching this saying, LeBron needs more help. Did you see Kyle Korver last night? They went and got Kyle Korver. He makes 8 of 9 threes last night. What more do you want?
Did Golden State need more help?
Well, again, Kevin Durant wanted to go to Golden State.
Okay, LeBron James.
Who's the champion? The champion is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
LeBron.
Who beat Golden State on Christmas Day? The Cleveland Cavaliers.
They won 73 games, too.
Wow.
Skip. And they went out and got the second best player in the NBA because why? They needed more help.
Okay, but let's get back on point. So now, very childishly, talk about petty. This is the all-time petty move to get even with Charles. He's saying, I'm going to boycott TNT. And again, will it wreck the ratings tonight? It'll put a big dent in them. And again, they got 3 more games, do the Cavaliers on TNT. February 23rd, home Knicks. March 27th, at Spurs. That's a loss for the Cavaliers. And then March 30th, at Bulls. So 3 more times you could at least dent the ratings if you say the big 3 is not going to play in those 3 games. But ultimately, LeBron James can't win this game because ultimately TNT has all those Eastern Conference playoff games, and that leads up to the finals that will be on TNT this year. So unless LeBron James is going to cut off his nose despite his face and boycott the playoffs, maybe he should do that. I don't know. But this is, you have to admit, this is so beneath this man's dignity.
So you don't want to talk about the minutes being played. LeBron James turned 32 years of age on December 30th. No man in the 70-year history of the NBA has played more minutes at that age than LeBron James.
Whose fault is that?
Skip.
It's LeBron's fault. He's the co-coach. He could take himself out anytime.
Can I talk?
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
didn't even interrupt
No, I'm
you.
just
I was
trying
just
to.
sitting back over here. Joy was over here being petty, and you was trying to accommodate her in her pettiness. And I let you talk. You gonna let me finish now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. LeBron is playing entirely too many minutes. He's playing 2 more minutes this year than he played last year. And when you rob Peter in the regular season, you must pay Paul down the line. Skip, those are too many minutes. Now, they did go into an overtime game on Monday night. They played last night, and they're playing again. Now, normally when the 3 games he's missed, they come on back-to-back road games. And I get it, Skip. You know, the fans pay a lot of money, but Ty Lue has an obligation to the Cleveland Cavaliers to make sure his guys are rested and healthy, because it's not about the regular season. I know, I get it. They hold a sign up. I paid $2,000 and drove 100,000 miles just to see the King. Well, you're not going to see him tonight. Enjoy it. Skip, you know the man's playing too many minutes. All 3, but I might agree with you. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. It might be a little something like Charles. It might be. Hold on, you mean to tell me they don't turn in the TNT to watch Charles take shots at LeBron? Oh, LeBron.
I can't wait to hear the pregame tonight.
But I thought Charles said this was done. But all I hear him going on every other show, every radio show, and he's still bringing it up. Bron has already hit him over the head with a sledgehammer. My grandfather used to say, boy, you're killing that with a sledgehammer. Hey, if you come for me and I didn't send for you, I got to send you away. You see what I'm saying, Joy? Now, Charles Barkley came at that man. That man didn't send for Charles. So I had to make sure you get this 190 proof with no chaser. You ever had some golden grain? You should, pure jet fruit, 95% pure alcohol. So that's what LeBron had to do. LeBron had to say, look, if you want to critique me and says I'm missing too many free throws, have at it. If you want to say I need to post up more, have at it. Talk about my 3. Don't talk about my 3, because my 3-point percentage is better than Kevin Durant's so far this year. So we ain't going to talk about the 3. Skip, if it's done with, Charles does not need to go on everybody's talk show, everybody's radio show, and validate what he said. You said what you said. You said you were done with it. Clearly you're not. Clearly what LeBron said bothered you. Because you remember I told you, Skip, someone's opinion of you only bothers you if you value their opinion. So LeBron said what he said. He's moved on. It's Charles that's continuing to talk about it. So LeBron's taking off. He's playing too many minutes. He played overtime. He played Wednesday, won both of those games, and played last night. So you know what, Skip? He ain't playing tonight. And deal with it.
Deal with it. Because LeBron runs the National Basketball Association, right?
You say that like that's a problem. And that's the problem. That's what bothers the old school guys with LeBron, because he has power. He gets to enjoy things that not even the great Michael Air Jordan.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan, say his name. Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
LeBron from Akron.
Yeah.
The king of Akron.
King of Akron. That's about all he's. You got to admit that this is so unlike LeBron. Like, why is he so thin-skinned now? What does he really care what Charles Barkley has to say? And then Charles did take shots back. Remember, Dwayne Wade, Draymond Green defended LeBron against Charles.
Yes.
So Charles responded to their defense by
why is Charles so thin-skinned? Why must he respond to everything someone says?
Okay, but he's not LeBron James. I put LeBron James way up on this pedestal. I put Charles down here.
You ain't high enough.
Right?
Go up a little higher.
Okay, I will. You know what? You're right about that, because Charles doesn't deserve to be in the same sentence in a basketball sense with LeBron James. So why is LeBron stooping to go clear down here to get in a match with a...
I agree with you, Skip. I believe you don't get into a peeing contest with a skunk, because you'll lose every time.
Okay.
LeBron said what he said. LeBron has not referenced Charles since he addressed him after that game in the interview.
Did he address him? You said he hit him, on the head with the sledgehammer? I think he hit him below the belt with the sledgehammer. That's what he did.
You kill a gnat with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
You overkill. You want to make sure, you want the other gnats to know they better not come fooling around with you.
This should be a gnat to LeBron. And again, so Charles responds back at Dwayne and Draymond saying these are typical AAU babies because they interpret the least criticism, most valid criticism as hate.
Like Charles?
As hate.
Like Charles
They do. And that's the way they were raised, although I'm not sure Dwayne and Draymond are AAU baby. I'm not sure Dwayne's really an AAU baby, but whatever. It's that era that he's talking about.
But here's the thing, and I've said this many times before, it's a different era. These guys grew up playing against each other since they were 10, 11 years old.
Okay.
So they established friendships before they even hit the NBA. Michael and Charles Barkley era, the guys didn't really have traveling teams. These guys played on traveling teams. So Carmelo faced LeBron. LeBron faced Chris Paul and all this other situation, Skip. So I get it. The only difference between what we're seeing now and what we saw in years past is that the teams put together were putting the players together and the teams together then. The players are doing it now. LeBron says, if I want to play with my buddy, we're going to play together.
Okay.
Deal with it, Skip.
Okay.
Charles, all the old timers, there's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah, and you know what? The new sheriff approach by LeBron is really denting his image.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's making him look worse and worse. It just he's better than this. And all Charles is saying is that, don't you want to compete, LeBron? Like, don't you want to compete? Listen, think about this. You're losing the perspective. They won the NBA Finals. They beat Golden State on Christmas Day. They came from 14 down in the fourth quarter. They have LeBron's got Kyrie Irving, to me, the baddest man in the NBA. He's got a Kevin Love that you said yesterday is better than Carmelo Anthony. So you've got those two, and then they go get for LeBron the best three-point catch and shooter that there is in basketball, and Kyle Korver, and he showed you that last night. And they were down, what were they? I watched the whole game. They're down
like
15. I think they got down 15 in the first half at Indiana. And Kyle Korver just shot him right in the heart.
Caught fire.
Well, he did, because he's capable. It's another sniper in LeBron's array. And there's nobody better at getting in the lane and dishing to the open sniper than LeBron James. So what more? Charles is just saying, come on, just go compete now. You've got enough to go compete. Just go compete with them.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Bill Belichick, after they won Super Bowl 51, would do anything to try and improve his team?
Well, sure. Who doesn't try to improve their team?
So what's LeBron is saying, I need to improve my team. What's the problem?
He just did. He got Kyle Korver, and you jumped up and did a dance on this table about it. You said it was the best move of the end season so far.
We going on the road. When they win the title, we're going to have our show from Cleveland. Might have it in Bron's backyard.
Okay, I'll be there.
No.
Will he cook for us?
No, he told
Barbecue?
me. He said, Shannon, you can come, but Miss Petty
she can't
is
come.
not allowed to come.
I've spent plenty of time in Akron, Ohio.
But
that's true. Good
I'm
point.
welcome there anytime.
Very good point.
The only thing is,
Touche. Yeah.
LeBron
Speaking of
is saying-
Hall of Famers.
LeBron is saying that we need other pieces. I'm not worried about the East. I'm worried about Golden State. I'm worried about San Antonio. He wants to make the team better. Now, we're going to spend this money. Now, don't make me leave after next year and go hook up with Kawhi and go on me another streak, because that's what I would do. I would go hook up with Kawhi and lock it down for another 3 years.
You know what? He would learn how to win in San Antonio. He would. That'd be the best thing that could ever happen to LeBron. He'd learn how to win and how to act while he was winning. Correct. Thank you.
By a coach that demeans people that interview. Skip, for you and Charles to say that King James, LeBron James, does not like to compete after the man that won the
I didn't say he didn't like to, but you got enough. You just go compete with him. Go say, I'm the best player.
LeBron
You told me he's the best player on the planet. Go prove it. You got enough help here.
If they breathe oxygen and dribble a basketball, he's the best.
Okay, so what does he want more? Does he
He
what more? Do you want Carmelo and Kevin Love?
Yeah.
So you can be the prohibitive favorite in the finals? So it's over. Why don't we just cancel the finals and make him the king again? Say you're 4-4 now in the finals. Just say game over. You got it, LeBron.
Let me ask you a question, Skip. Who do you think know more about what that team needs? LeBron James or Charles Barkley?
What does that matter?
Because you said he's the de facto leader. You said he runs everything. So he's saying, I know what we need.
Well, he wants everything. He wants to be the prohibitive favorite.
So what's Golden State right now?
I think they're the second favorite to Cleveland.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
I mean, Cleveland's going to cakewalk to the finals. LeBron, and again, it's LeBron's fault that he's played the second most minutes in the NBA to date this year. That's absurd. That's his fault. And I'm going to tell you why. Let me finish.
Okay.
The reason he's doing this is to build in yet another excuse in case
Oh,
it
my
all goes
goodness,
south.
Skip,
That's what he's
stop.
doing.
No, he's not.
He is too, because it's his choice to play those minutes. And then he can say, you know what? I got worn out during the regular season. They played me too much. Baloney! He plays himself. Remember when David Blatt was the coach? He used to take himself in and out of games at will. He would just say, you know what? I'm going out this time. No, I'm going back in this time. You don't think he tells Ty Lue, I'm playing this, I'm going back in, I'm going tonight, I'll go 35 tonight. No, tonight I could go 40. What's he doing? He's building in yet another excuse. I don't have enough help. I'm playing too many minutes. Baloney you are. There's no reason. What are they, 3.5 games up in the East still? And they haven't been that great lately, and they're still 3.5 up. They are going to cakewalk to the finals, and they're going to be the freshest team in the finals, which is why before the year I picked them to win the finals, as is, without Kyle Korver, because I thought the West would just tear itself apart before it got to the finals.
You picked Cavaliers because you want to jinx them. You know you're bad luck. But the Cavaliers are the first team to win back-to-back games against a team that has 7 or more game winning streak. You said, oh, the Wizards, oh, the Wizards. And see, I like what you did, Skip. See, this is what you always try to do. Everything LeBron says, you always talk about, he's trying to build an excuse. You probably think he tried to go off the glass because if he'd have missed it, he's like, it was a difficult shot. No, he called it.
He called glass?
OT. He said OT. Oh. I heard him when he was up in there. OT, baby.
OT, he said that?
OT, baby.
You know what? You're the only one in the world who dreamed that up, who heard that, who fantasized that's what he said. You're the only one in the world who thought that.
Did you not think when he shot that ball was going in?
Heck no. I thought he missed it 3 feet right, and it actually accidentally banked in.
Well, you need to get that new definition TV with 4K.
Oh, I don't have a Shannon Sharpe TV.
Yeah, you need to get
sharper images.
No,
right?
you need to get the curved TVs.
Yeah.
Oh, the resolution.
Yeah.
Ooh, the resolution, the picture.
I know. Yeah.
Well, see, if you'd have stopped petting Hazel, she probably got dander in your eye when LeBron hit that 3. Look at this, Skip.
Yeah.
Wham! Ooh!
Wow. Off the glass.
Bam! OT. One more time.
You know,
ooh, it looks better every time.
Next time you're going to tell me that Hans Gruber was in the first row saying, shoot the glass. Do you know that line?
Yep.
You know, that's Hans Gruber saying, shoot the glass. Shoot the glass, LeBron.
Skip, you got to deal with this. You got another 5 years to deal with the king and his army. Because he's not going anywhere.
I hope he's not, because I love him. Every day is a new story because he's completely out of control.
And like Jennifer Holliday
he's great for us.
Jennifer Holliday says, look, I'm not going. I'm not living without you.
I got you.
And you.
And you know what? This brings us to the final, larger point this debate, which is LeBron and company, CP3 and Melo, they've all suggested. Wait a second. In the past, they have suggested they might just take their basketball and go home, as in, we'll go start our own league.
You're about to start our own league.
Well, that's what I say. It's a nice idea, and they would have the power as players to do it. I just don't think they could pull it off, because to run a business and try to counter the NBA's business as its adversary for TV rights, that would be pretty tough. That'd be a tough sell. I'm not sure you could win that game.
They said the same thing about Tiger, that he was going to go start his own tour.
Okay.
They said that about other teams that tried to challenge the NFL. It's going to be very, very hard for an upstart sporting league to be able to compete with established situations like the NFL, like MLB, like the NBA.
I totally agree. So at some point, you're going to have to stop this petty boycotting of TNT, your TV partner, because they are your partner. And trust me, you're starting to bite a hand that has really fed you well. Because mostly on TNT, they glorified LeBron James like nobody does. And no athlete has ever gotten more protection and passes from the media than LeBron James has.
TNT is not LeBron James' buddy.
Well, it's his network, basically.
No.
I mean, they've been partners. They've been arm-in-arm partners.
He is thinking about getting a network. You know, he got that game show on. He gets a nice game show, too. You ever seen this, Skip?
No,
The Wall?
I have not.
Man, you need to watch that thing. That thing real nice. I know you don't watch it, Miss Petty.
I have sports to watch. I have to keep track of everything, you know? I gotta
The Wall,
make sure I know what's
executive producer LeBron James.
LeBron is a great businessman. Nobody's questioning that.
Wait, isn't that the genius of Maverick Carter behind that show? That's what I thought.
You know
LeBron just put his name on it, but Maverick is...
Why you do that, Skip?
I'm just saying.
Every time I turn around, you try to undercut that man. Now, Skip, I want you to stop it.
The bottom line is, just because someone is being critical of you does not mean that they're hating. It's Charles Barkley's job to talk about it.
You, ma'am, are a hater.
I am not a hater.
And petty.
I can give my opinion without being a hater.
How do you think you got the name Miss Petty? Queen Petty.
From you,
yes,
and only
exactly.
you. It didn't come from this side of the table.
When people ask me, I said, look here, Skip Bayless, I ride. I said, Joy Taylor now. I said, Joy, good people, but she petty.
You know what? It's just I have inside information that that's where I base my opinion on.
You got inside hate.
I do. I have inside information.
Wait a second. Her brother, first ballot Hall of Fame. You,
oh,
third ballot.
Third.
I think she outranks you now.
Hey, I'm in there. I ain't coming out.
No mercy. Next up, Jerry Jones made the Hall of Fame on Saturday night. Now the attention in Dallas is on Tony Romo's future. Jones talked about his relationship with the quarterback yesterday. Let's take a listen.
It's no secret. I just think so much of him as a person and think so much of him as a player. It's right. The team we have, especially the offensive side of the ball, was built for Tony. And so these are this is what it is. It's a juncture that we have to address. And, I don't know how ultimately we will resolve this, and nobody should be alarmed because you don't have all the answers. We have a sound enough foundation together that on an individual basis, we'll get through this. I've always said the Cowboys are like a room full of lighter fluid, about 1.5 inches deep. It never really gets to the bottom, and I'm talking about the interest in them, whether you criticize them or whether you're rooting for them. But, man, when that thing takes off and when success hits and the excitement goes with it, it goes to the stratosphere. It's like hitting that room full of lighter fluid with a match. And it just, you've always underestimated what's going to happen.
Skip, what do you make of this?
I don't know what you think about a room full of lighter fluid or any flammable liquid in a match, but I kind of know how that's going to end up. I don't know what Jerry's thinking, but he's right. You're going to be blown to the stratosphere.
You know what?
Skip, I love it.
Right now,
get a close-up on Skip.
My heart feels like it's got 1.5 inches of lighter fluid in it, and Jerry's about to throw a match in my heart and just torch it. I don't know what else to say about this, except I called this several weeks back. I told you Jerry Jones is going to reinstall Tony Romo at quarterback and start him on opening day next season. I know Jerry, and I know what he's up to. At one point he said, we got to cool it on talking about Romo. And then he keeps talking and talking and talking about Tony Romo, how much Tony means to him, how much it would mean to him to see Tony Romo win a Super Bowl with the Dallas Cowboys.
This team was built for Tony Romo.
Built for Tony Romo. This offense was built for Tony Romo. What he's doing is he is laying the groundwork. He is planting the seeds. He's conditioning Cowboy fans to prepare themselves for the inevitable. Tony Romo returns at quarterback for the Cowboys. Even though my Dallas Cowboys are currently the Vegas favorite to win the NFC next year, and that's with Dak Prescott at quarterback, Jerry is going to mess this up because Jerry can't help himself. You heard the quotes. The first guy who talked to him was, after he got in the hall, we were just talking about the first call you got was from your owner. Well, the reverse is the first call he got was from his backup quarterback, Tony Romo. No one was earlier or quicker to give me a hug, says Jerry Jones. It's no secret. I just think so much of him as a person and so much of him as a player. And he went to the links right after the playoff loss to say that Tony Romo could have outgunned Aaron Rodgers in that shootout at Texas, Jerry World. And he believes that. He not only believes they could win the Super Bowl much quicker next year with Tony Romo at quarterback, he believed, as we keep talking about, that they could have won this past Super Bowl if Tony Romo had been reinstalled at quarterback 6 or 7 games earlier. That's how much Jerry loves Tony. So this is like slow death for me because he's subtly, slowly, but surely trying to condition all of us to get ready for what's coming because he says nobody should be alarmed. This is Jerry. This is between the lines. He's saying prepare yourself. Don't be alarmed. It's Tony Romo we're talking about. We're going to have a better chance with Tony Romo next year than we would with a A kid who only won 11 straight games this past year and was Offensive Rookie of the Year? Really? Oh, okay.
He keeps reaffirming what I've said all along. He views Tony Romo as a son. And cutting Tony Romo, trading Tony Romo would be like jettisoning his son, Stephen Jones, or the others.
It would.
Skip, I made the joke that Tony Romo Jones, but this is how Jerry views him. Because Jerry says, yeah, we got to see each other in person, but more in spirit.
They're connected, man.
Skip.
Soulmates.
A 73-year-old, I think Jerry's 73.
Yeah.
Tony Romo's about to be 37.
Yeah.
And they're kindred spirits. I think he's talking himself out of trading or releasing Tony Romo because he keeps telling you, well, this offense was built for him. He said after the game, those plays that Aaron Rodgers were making, those are Romo-type plays. Romo can make those plays. You ought to see him going up against our defense. Well, a very good quarterback can do that to your defense. Skip, this is not going to end well. I don't know how you can go back to Tony Romo and expect Dak, after winning 11 games, being Offensive Rookie of the Year, and you ask him to go and be a backup because he feels he's played well enough, he's earned that job. The guys in that locker room saying he's earned this job. And for Jerry to tinker with it because of his pride, maybe he wants validation. Jerry, you just got the ultimate validation.
He did.
You go into Canton in August.
And that's why I told you yesterday, I was hoping that would calm him down, like I'm now a made man. I'm in the Hall of Fame. Instead, he's going to take it another direction. I'm a Hall of Famer. I have genius about me. Watch what I can do. Oh, now I know I'm going to show you that I gave all that money to Tony Romo for the right reason, because he's going to win me a Super Bowl next year. But the defense that Tony has torched in practice is going to be virtually the same defense next year, maybe with a draft choice or two.
If you keep Tony.
If you keep Tony, right?
Absolutely.
Because you made the point yesterday. You could clear X, it's about $5 million, and maybe you could go get Eric Berry. Yeah, somebody on the market to shore up your defense, because this situation is screaming to either trade or just release Tony. That would be the right parting gift. If you love him like a son, just release him, because then he could go make a deal where he wants to go. And he's earned that much.
Yes.
But now Jerry would sit back and say, I don't want him to go somewhere and win a Super Bowl elsewhere. That would be the ultimate, that would haunt Jerry for the rest of his days.
That's what is scaring Jerry the most.
It is.
If Tony were to go somewhere. Just imagine if you're in college or high school and you dated Halle Berry or Scarlett Johansson, and all of a sudden you see them on the big screen, you're like, I messed that up. How did I let that happen? If Jerry were to see Tony Romo go to Denver or to Houston or wherever he may land and win a Super Bowl, Skip, I don't know what's the lowest moment in his life has ever been, maybe losing everything he's ever owned.
Yeah, I know what it was. It was when he flew into Love Field at one point in Dallas, Texas, the little commuter airport, Southwest Airlines airport, and gave his credit card to rent a car. And he told me the woman just took it and cut it in two because he was busted. He'd lost it all. That was his lowest point of his life, and this would rival it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To see Tony Romo go to another team, because Jerry's all along believed that Tony Romo had the goods to get a team to the Super Bowl. He believed he had the goods to get his team to the Super Bowl. And to see him go do that in someone else's uniform, I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, they got Andrew Luck, but I bet you it bothered Jim Irsay to see Peyton Manning have the success that he had after he left and to win a Super Bowl. Because you're like, wow, I wonder if he could have done that here with us. If we had just waited one more year. I could have done this, could have done that. And Jerry's a guy that he doesn't like to live with regret. So he's going to go do what he keeps saying but he said it several times.
He did.
Ultimately, the decision is mine.
Yep.
I'm going to make this call. And Skip, he's about to mess up. Because the Cowboys, look, I'm not the biggest Cowboy supporter, but Skip, they got something special down there. The three best offensive linemen are all 28 or younger. Zeke's going to be 22. Dak's going to be 24. You got Dez under contract for another 2 years.
Yes, you do.
He's still under 30.
Jason Witten can still fly.
See, there you go. I was trying to get a Cowboy.
I know you were. Go ahead. Keep going. I liked it. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
Skip, Jerry's going to mess this up. You need to get on the phone and call him. I mean, you know people that's close to him.
I do.
You need tell Jerry don't do it.
And, owning this team is such a drug, so to speak, and he's talking about the lighter fluid. And he's right, because last year when they took off, this team just explodes because, I'm sorry, it's still America's team.
What do they have?
Love, hate, whichever way you...
What do they have, like 5 of the top 7, 8 highest rated games?
Right. And this goes to a man's head who owns the Dallas Cowboys, who was a wannabe pro football player, a decent college player. And now he's in the Hall of Fame, and he's going to show you that Tony Romo Jones can win a Super Bowl with an offense that was made for him, probably at the expense of the defense. So we'll see how that turns out. He's going to mess it up.
Jerry mentioned it in his quote that whether you're criticizing or you're rooting for them, that's what the lighter
watching
fluid
them.
is. You're watching them. You're paying attention. Pride comes before a fall, Jerry. Be careful.
No mercy.
Yesterday, Steph Curry spoke out against Under Armour CEO Kevin Plank after Plank complimented President Donald Trump. Plank said, quote, "To have a pro-business president is a real asset for the country." Curry said he agreed if you remove the ET from assets. Plank then said he was talking from a business perspective, and Steph Curry said he still supports Under Armour. Chris Broussard is back with us. Welcome back, Chris.
Thank
but
you.
Shannon, let me start with you. What do you make of this?
Well, this is a very volatile political time that we're in right now. And we're seeing athletes take more of a stance. No longer will they stand by silently while they see things affecting them, our society. You see, normally what happens is that we see brands drop players. We saw when Tiger Woods went through his scandal, AT&T, Gatorade, Accenture, they dropped Tiger because it seemed like his values didn't align with theirs. Well, Steph Curry just drew a line in the sand. Says, okay, Kevin Plank. Now, you co-signed this. Remember, I talked about it yesterday. When you say, though, okay, he's a friend, you're co-signing him. So when Kevin Plank co-signed Donald Trump, Steph Curry says, hold on. His values do not align with my values. And he also said that no amount of money will stop me from jumping off this platform. That's his line in the sand. Says, okay, now, I believe you will not hear any further comments publicly about Kevin Plank addressing Donald Trump, because Steph Curry is in the power position. Their basketball is on the back of Stephen Curry. No question about it. He's it. Now, you make him upset, guess where he's going? And to that one up in Oregon.
They would love to have him.
So just think about this roster, Skip. If they don't acquiesce to what Steph Curry is saying, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving. Now, Russ is a brand Jordan, but that's still the swoosh. So he's saying, you keep talking about, Donald Trump is good, but his values don't align with my core values. Steph Curry, now had LeBron said something like this, you're like, okay, LeBron has been very outspoken on political issues, social issues. He's been very outspoken. As a matter of fact, he held a rally. He spoke at the Clinton rally in Cleveland.
Yep.
But when he says it, we know he comes from a great family. Dale Curry and his wife did a great job raising these young men. For Steph Curry to take that stance as vocal as he did, because he basically called the president, the north end of a southbound donkey. That's what he did. And he says, Kevin Plank, the values that you're talking about, he's such an asset, but those values don't align with mine. And you're going to have to make a decision here sooner or later.
I love what Steph came out and said. I like when athletes, particularly African-American athletes, come out and take stances like this, because they are among our race's most influential and beloved and well-respected people in this country.
Yes.
Okay, so I like it. And like you said, Steph doesn't do this normally.
No.
So when he does do it, it resonates even more powerfully. So I like that. Now, that said, I believe that our athletes, our black athletes, when they dealing with Trump, whether you disengage from him or you engage
Call
him,
him president, though.
Be
Don't call him Trump. Just call him president. Like you would say President Obama or President
Well, I
Bush.
used to say Obama sometimes,
Don't do that.
but dealing with him,
Yes.
we have to be smart and strategic. Okay, like I like what the Patriots are doing, the players that don't want to go there and to the White House, because that's a ceremonial thing and it's not going to accomplish anything but it's a photo op and all that, and here's some jokes. Fine. But if I'm an influential black athlete and I'm really concerned about the marginalized people in this country, and I know I can meet with the president, I'm meeting with him. Now, I'm not going in there to kiss his ring, and I'm not going in there so you can take pictures and say, oh, he met with so-and-so. I'm going in there to share my concerns and even things I would like to see done. And I'm not saying an athlete knows all that, but get it from other people. If you really want to make a difference, because this situation, look, I am not a Donald Trump supporter. I did not vote for him. His character, the things he's done, I disagree with wholeheartedly a lot of what he stands for and has done and said. But this situation with Under Armour, Kevin Plank, what he said is one thing, but he's on a panel, a manufacturing panel with Johnson & Johnson and CEOs from Ford and other companies. And their goal, Trump put the panel together, their goal is to focus on how to bring manufacturing jobs to America. Mm-hmm. That is good for marginalized Americans, if it can be done.
Right.
And if we're African American, we're talking about the black community, because I'm working with a lot of black men and boys and people, black brothers that's been in prison. And we need jobs. And those are the types of jobs we can get. So let's be smart and strategic about it. This dude, this man, is still the president of the United States and has the power to help and do things that can benefit our community. So I'm just saying, let's be smart about it. And if he can, this manufacturing panel is a good thing. Yeah. Let's go in there and make sure a significant and fair amount of those manufacturing jobs that you want to bring back go to African Americans from the neighborhoods that a lot of these players are from. So I don't think it's wise to just say, I'm not dealing with him at all. But let's use it strategically.
Skip, before I let you go, how about this? If you get an opportunity to meet with President Trump, how about you take somebody in there that do understand policy?
Yes.
That do.
Yes.
Take a Michael Eric Dyson. Take a Mark Lamont Hill. Take some of these guys that understand policy and law to understand to help you implement. Because first of all, this is not your expertise. You spend the majority of your time playing and getting ready to play a game. True. You need to have somebody that understands this talk. And can talk to him on a level and his people on a level that they will understand and respect. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they look at you, they see you, you're an athlete. Yep. Yep. They don't think you know about policy. They don't think you understand about law and acts. So take someone in there with you if you get this opportunity so it doesn't look like they're using you as a political ploy or a prop.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Back to Under Armour. Do you guys believe what I read from Steph at the end of the day? He said he had conversations with people at Under Armour all day long with Kevin Plank's people, I assume with Kevin Plank himself, and that in the end, he was quoted as saying, Steph was, I'm satisfied with their explanation of this is just he's talking about a business asset, like it's in the business context, not in the greater political context. Are you guys satisfied with that, or do you think Steph was just saying that for PR's sake, or what?
Well, like I said, if Plank could explain to him the potential benefits, business-wise, not just for Steph as an Under Armour representative, but for the wider community at large, Americans in general, then I think that's wise of Steph. I don't know, of course, what was said in there, but I think if he can show him the benefits of it, and he could even say, because he supported Democrats and Republicans, Kevin Plank, he could say, look, he maybe said, I don't agree with things he said. I'm sure he probably said that to Steph. I don't agree with some of the things he's done and implemented. But from a business standpoint, this could benefit.
My first thought yesterday when I first read the headline and the first paragraph was, what is Steph's recourse? What if he says, I'm going to take my shoes and go elsewhere? Well, he is under contract. I'm not sure exactly how much longer it has to go, but I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you could say that you broke our contract with what you said, like it was some violation.
There has to be a clause in there because companies have morality clauses in their contract that they can break. So it'd be hard for me to believe that Steph Curry doesn't have an out in his contract if the company were to do something and it doesn't align with what he believes or his core values. So it'd be hard for me to believe, Skip and Chris, that he doesn't have something like that because we always know corporations have those written into their contracts.
Okay, because that would get very messy. I think that would wind up in court. So it's probably...
If Steph wanted to walk away?
Yes, if he wanted to walk
really?
away just because he was so deeply offended by that one comment.
Yep.
If he wasn't satisfied with the explanation, what's his recourse? Could he walk away? Could he take it to court to walk away? Because the original, the initial quotes are so profound. They're coming from such a deep place in Steph for the first time ever.
Yes.
And he's got the kind of mental toughness where if he digs in, because he doesn't speak out very much, my first thought was, wow, would he fight this all the way home? Would he say, I just can't work for that or with that company?
I would imagine he could walk away. You just wouldn't get the money.
Okay, but I don't know if because they're contracted with you, I don't know if you can just walk away. They could continue to sell your sneaker, right?
I
assume.
That's probably.
So this is over my head, but I'm just saying, my first thought was, is this deep enough that he's going to try to get out from under
Steph
the
gonna
deal?
be out there shooting 30-footers barefooted. I ain't wearing nobody's sneaker.
He could probably
Make
do
his own.
that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to continue to see more and more of this, as we discussed yesterday with some of the Patriots not going to the White House. And as divided as we are, I think more and more of this is going to keep coming up. Chris, thanks for joining us.
No mercy.
Nick's super fan in front of the show.
He is.
Welcome, Michael.
This man is texting me last night because he's out of his mind watching what happened to Charles Oakley.
Rightfully so.
Free Charles Oakley.
Free Charles Oakley.
Free Charles
Free
Oakley. What happened last night exemplifies what every single Knicks fan has been feeling. You could say since 1999 or go back to 1973.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's set it up for everybody and talk about your Knicks. Charles Oakley was arrested and removed from Madison Square Garden during last night's game against the Clippers. Oakley was allegedly yelling towards Knicks owner James Dolan, then involved in an altercation with MSG security guards. After the incident, the Knicks released a statement saying Charles Oakley came to the game tonight and behaved in a highly inappropriate and completely abusive manner. He's been ejected and is currently being arrested by the New York City Police Department. He was a great Knick, and we hope he gets some help soon. Take a listen to Oakley explaining the incident.
Get there, sit down, try to have a good time. Next thing I know, I was asked to leave the building. I asked why. And he said, guys, well, you have to leave because someone ordered you to leave. And I'm like, I've been here 4.5 minutes. I'm a Knicks fan, played here for 10 years. I love the Knicks. I love New York. This is my heart. I wish them all the luck and success on the basketball court. I don't know why I'm not welcome into the Garden.
And what happened next?
Next thing I know, 7, 8 guys, more and more kept coming at me, and I'm like, why do I have to leave?
And what reason did they give?
They said, I have to leave. They got ordered. And, I was on my back, so disrespectful.
Sorry to interrupt you, Michael. The floor is yours now.
I mean, I don't know what to say. It's disgusting. And like I said, what happened last night was a tipping point for the fans. Charles Oakley exemplified what it was to be a New York City athlete. That hard-nosed, never say die, never give up.
Tough as nails.
Tough as nails. He'll be revered in New York City even more because of this. But that's why for Charles Oakley, when they're slamming him down to the ground, immediately they're going to Oakley. They don't do that for anybody for the Knicks right now.
That's true.
The frustrations that we've had as the Knicks, the dysfunctional relationship that Knicks fans have had with our team for 20-something years, or we could even go back to 1973, because it don't mean a thing if you ain't got that ring. And we don't have any rings, and I don't care when anybody says New York City is still the mecca of basketball. There's a civil war going on with Knicks fans. We're fighting amongst ourselves. You got New York Post guys fighting with Daily News guys. All we want is a championship. We want to be competitive. This is an embarrassment. And every single year we start off in November. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. This is our year. And then come February, this crap happens. So last night was the tipping point. But I could say this. For one shining moment during the winter of 2017. Charles Oakley let us forget about all the world's problems, just for one moment. And New York, we appreciate him, and it's disgusting what happened. And I believe they probably came over to him, and then he exploded. But it is what it is. And we could talk about the Phil Jackson of it all, and the Carmelo of it all, and what the problems are. Let me tell you something. People are saying, get rid of Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson knows more about in his pinky nail basketball players than anybody that's in the Garden. All the critics but Phil Jackson played with the guys he played with. Forget who he coached. We know the obvious. Willis Reed, Dr. Dick Barnett. He played with guys that who had jobs during the offseason. He knows hardworking players. He knows tough players. If there's something wrong with a player, I trust Phil Jackson. Now, he hasn't been an angel in it with the tweeting. I don't think he's handled it good. And I think Carmelo, he's not the guy. He's not the guy. I think it's a mess. It's a dysfunctional
What's
mess.
your view of James Dolan as an owner?
Listen, I like getting my courtside seats.
Oh.
I give that to celebrities, but something just ain't right. I feel like Dolan has let Phil Jackson do all basketball decisions, but Skip, I do like my courtside seats.
Okay.
But so what's my thing with there's something's not right. Things haven't been right for years. So, I mean, as far as an owner, he hired Phil Jackson, and I think Derek Fisher idea, terrible, but he drafted some great guys. We have Porzingis. Nobody was talking about Porzingis. It was the steal of that draft. And going forward, I don't know the answer, but I know, like last night, that will always be remembered as Charles Oakley Day in New York City.
And by the way, Charles Oakley was willing to sacrifice his courtside seats to constructively criticize not just the organization, but the owner himself. And it did escalate to get pretty scathing and personal, called him a profane name. And then he finally said, he's trying to get an audience, and he said, just lock me in a room with James Dolan. He can have his police outside, but lock the door. And I'm sure Dolan could interpret that as some sort of threatening message. So when he saw Charles had bought a ticket and is 3 rows away and 2 seats away across the aisle, I assume he said he's going to go. I believe Charles Oakley, when he said, on my mother, he said, I didn't say anything. But you can, listen, James Dolan not only owns the team, he owns the building. So he has the right, unfortunately, to send customers out.
Let me tell you something. You know who also made constructive criticism of the Knicks and no longer is associated with the Knicks? A gentleman named Marv Albert. He's more of a Knick than Phil Jackson, Willis Reed, and all of them. Marv Albert was a ball boy for the Knicks when he's 9 years old. When he was the broadcaster for the Knicks, he made constructive criticism of the team. Boom, he's gone. I love Mike Breen. I love Clyde, what they do for the Knicks. Marv Albert is gone from the Knicks because of constructive criticism. Not I want to meet you in a room, not threats, not 6'9" black guy against a little owner of the team, and all that has to do with James Dolan. I don't know what he's scared of. He's in a blues band. I mean, B.B. King, James Dolan. You say them, when you think of blues music, you think of B.B. King, and then the next person, James Dolan.
Yeah.
That's what I think of.
Probably not.
But they've gotten rid of people for making constructive criticism. What Marv did wasn't insulting. It wasn't out of line. He's Marv Albert. He's the fabric of the New York Knicks. This is the problem. There's no culture. There's no history. Patrick Ewing could never get a coaching job with the New York Knicks. You know what he's doing right now, Skip? He's on the bench doing shot charts for Frank the Tank Kaminsky. He's Patrick Ewing. We have no legacy. We have no culture there. And the one guy that really exemplified New York, Oakley, they throw him out of the arena. They let him go. I'm not saying his behavior was perfect, but the frustration, it was a tipping point.
I got it. Go ahead.
He said that, I spent good money for this seat.
Yep.
And you guys keep staring at me. What did I do? I mean, if I pay my money for a ticket, I should be allowed to sit in my seat and watch the game without you guys gazing at me all day. Now, I knew once they approached him, and I know Oakley very well, known him over 2 decades, Michael, when you put your hands on him or he feels threatened, he's not backing down. And I knew once they started, and he probably said, no, don't touch me.
Yep.
Don't put your hands on me. And I guess that security guard thought, well, I got all my other guys. No.
And the sad thing about it is those security guards probably were the same security guards that watched him dive, fight for the New York Knicks. And those are hardworking guys, too. Those are the guys who Charles Oakley represented, the truck drivers, the guys, forget the gentrified Manhattan or hipster Williamsburg, the guys in New York City that are 9-to-5ers, the garbage men, the people that are struggling, just, the middle class, lower middle class guy. That's who Charles Oakley represents. And those security guys, it was a sad thing, but it was a tipping point.
You know what they kept saying to Charles? We have orders. Like they have jobs. They're just trying to keep their jobs.
I'm sure the security guards didn't want to throw out Charles Oakley.
It's just a bad look. It's a bad look for the NBA. It's a bad look for the Knicks. It's a bad look for Charles. As I said earlier, Mike, I wish Charles would have handled that situation differently. But he just feels like I played here shed blood, sweat, and tears.
Literally.
And when you have a get-together with some of the all-time greats, I'm never invited.
No, they had Johnny Newman there the other day. No disrespect to Johnny Newman.
Yeah.
What would Johnny Newman have to do with the Knicks?
Yeah, Johnny Newman. Yeah,
They had Johnny Newman there. What is
just-
Johnny Newman doing at the Garden for a celebration? What is Johnny Newman? They're arresting Charles Oakley in Madison Square Garden. You might as well arrest the Pope at the Vatican.
Wow.
Wow.
That's how we feel about Charles Oakley.
I know.
Like
I
New
got
York, that's how we feel about certain guys. John Starks, Patrick Ewing,
X-Man.
X-Man, the late, great Anthony Mason. There's certain people, like, they can do no wrong, and he's going to be more. They should build a statue outside the Garden. We have nothing going on. We have a team that gets hard fouled by the Cleveland Cavaliers. What's his name? Hard fouled him last week. No, the guy who can't grow any hair on his face. Used to play for the Nets. He's on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Richard Jefferson.
Richard Jefferson. He can't even grow a beard. They're up 18 points. He hard fouls the Knicks when they're up by 18. No one bats an eye.
Wow.
We have no fight. That was the most fight the Knicks has showed in 20 years.
How do you feel about Carmelo right here, right now?
I feel like it's not his fault, but I feel like he's got to go. And I feel like it's a shame. I feel like Carmelo, you know, as much as I like him, since Syracuse, he's never been the guy to take a team over the top. He's an incredible offensive machine. But I think that je ne sais quoi, that charisma, that it factor that LeBron James showed the other night with that 0.3 shot.
The lucky shot? Go ahead.
But he makes them, though.
Yeah.
Last night, and on to top it all last night, we were up by 12, 13 points, and we blew the lead. But those shots at the end of the game that D-Wade made the other day, at, what is he, 49? D-Wade's 49?
Yeah, 49.
We don't get that from Carmelo.
And Carmelo had a
Don't talk
shot.
about her idol, D-Wade.
Yeah.
So how do I feel about him? I feel like he's under siege. I've never seen a star be this much under siege from his team and from the ownership of the team. So I feel like the whole thing needs to, once again, we need to blow it up again. Again, we just blew it up in 2013, and we got to talk about blowing up again. It's painful, Skip. Now you're out in L.A., you're Mr. Hollywood. When you knew you were in New York, you felt the pain a little bit more. You're detached.
I did. And
This guy's Mr. Hollywood now.
I feel your pain right now. That's why we had
We
you
can
on.
all feel your pain. You speak for all Knicks fans right now.
Hollywood
They call him
sunshine,
Fonzie.
Laying out in the back of the pool. You see him driving his car. He got a T-top Corvette.
Wait, Pat and Hazel.
Yeah.
It's the Shannon and Fonzie show.
He's driving his convertible, top down. He got Hazel on his lap.
Yeah.
Sunglasses on. I'm like, Skip, stop.
He's past the worries of the
He's
Knicks
at the
now.
club with paparazzi and all this stuff now.
Yeah, I do.
He called and tell him, oh, I'm going to be at Maestro.
Skip Fonzarelli.
You know that?
Yeah, I know what you said. I know you do that.
No mercy. Terrell Owens did not make the Hall of Fame on his second year of eligibility over the weekend, despite being second all-time in receiving yards and third all-time in touchdown receptions. Hall of Famer and member of the selection committee, Dan Fouts, talked about T.O. not being in the Hall yesterday. Let's take a listen.
I think his numbers are very worthy, but again, on the other side of it, I think, his actions on and off the field, on the sideline, in the locker room, and the fact that he played for so many teams, it was such a great player. The question to me always comes back to, if he was so great, why would those teams get rid of him? And I think we all know the answers.
Joined by Rob Parker. Welcome, Rob.
What's happening? How's everybody today?
Everyone's
Great,
great.
Boy, you're looking sharp today.
Thank you
Rob.
very much.
I
All
like
the Fox.
those new clothes,
He's
man.
empty the laundry bag. Everything Fox gave him, he wearing it in the first week.
You look good, Rob.
Thank you.
Shannon, let me start with you. What's your reaction?
Skip, you know how much I hate to criticize members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Because when you get that gold jacket, there's only 310 of us. I think 174, 175 living members. And so I take that serious. I always have the utmost respect for the guys that came before me that's in there and the guys that come after me. So I'm very, very cautious not to criticize. But I'm going to have to say I have a problem with what some of the things Dan Fouts said. Dan Fouts says, I think, notice what I said, I think his numbers are worthy. Now, when T.O. retired in 2010, he was fifth in catches, he was second in yards, he was tied for second in touchdowns with Randy Moss. That's when he retired. And you said you think those numbers are Hall of Fame worthy. He also says, Skip, but I go back and forth, and I tell you this, I say, when they want you to get in, they make a compelling case for you. When they don't, they make that same case against you. Where is it in the bylaws? They say, well, T.O. played for 5 different teams. Skip, who's the greatest cornerback to ever play the game?
We know.
Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders.
Played for 5 teams. Jerry Rice. Played for 3 teams. Rod Woodson, who was on the 75th anniversary team. So in the 75 years of 1994, that was the 75th year the NFL has been in existence. Rod Woodson was the corner. 4 teams.
Can I throw one to you?
Oh, I got it. I got you. I know you going.
All right.
What about Brett Favre? You know that guy, Skip?
Mm-hmm.
4 teams. Where's in the bylaws that you say you can only play for 1 to 2 teams before you get into the Hall of Fame? Now, there are 2 members that sit in that room with the 48 other members of the media when they're going through the selection process. The 2 members for the Hall of Fame are Dan Fouts and James Lofton. Guess how many teams James Lofton played for?
6. Okay, 5.
They never make that case that playing for that many teams was a problem. But because they want to keep T.O. out, this is a problem. He played for 5 teams. There are 3 guys that's been all-pro on 3 different teams. Ted Hendricks in the Hall of Fame. Deion Sanders in the Hall of Fame. 1, Terrell, Eldorado Owens. He's the only man to lead 5 different teams in receiving. And here's the part that I have the hardest part with, guys. When T.O. was playing, he was a 5-time first-team All-Pro. Those writers that voted T.O. one of the 2 best receivers in football, knowing his behavior in the locker room, on the sidelines, said, Terrell Owens, you're one of the 2 best receivers. Now when it's come time to give this man his ultimate validation, he can't finish a race because you keep moving the line. Oh, you play for too many teams. Oh, you cause problems in the locker room. You need to put that in the bylaws. Say character is it if you cause problems on the sidelines, if you cause problems in the locker room, we will hold that against you. You can no longer play for more than 3 teams and get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame because these are arguments they didn't use against anyone else. It's a shame. And now you come out and you try and justify why you did it. Come on, man. This is some bull diggity, and it's wrong. I get it. Was he the easiest guy to get along with? Probably not.
But that shouldn't matter.
But the Hall of Fame is a collection of stats and numbers. His stats and numbers says he's a Hall of Famer. There's a lot of guys that were worse than T.O. that's in that building. So let's just be careful when we start talking about morality, when we start talking about being good teammates, because there's a lot of guys in there that weren't.
Go ahead, Rob.
You just nailed it because I feel the same exact way from this standpoint that Dan Fouts is totally wrong. I was going to say the name I was going to throw into you is Bill Parcells is considered one of the great coaches in the NFL. How many teams did he coach? 4. All I'm saying is the notion that because you played for more than 1 or 2 teams is that nobody wanted you. I look at it exact opposite. I look at it that teams kept looking at T.O. saying, he's the missing piece. I'm willing to do whatever I got to do to get him on my team.
And they knew his history.
Right? And they knew it. So to me, when guys are really bad, they get a cup of coffee and a sweet roll with 1 team or 2 teams and nobody wants them. They won't touch them no matter what. For T.O. to be on that many teams and to accomplish and put together all the numbers that he was able to do is why he's a Hall of Famer. If you really want to take a look at him and discount the numbers and touchdowns and the yards and all that, then what are you doing? Then why are you really having a Hall of Fame if you're not going to base it off the numbers? What crime did he do that he wanted the football and maybe he was a little vocal and more animated than other guys? We know how receivers are. Go ahead, Skip. I know you're ready to pounce and he was the worst thing in the world and he was team obliterator. I get all that.
He was.
He was not. He was a great football player who belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I want to say one other thing. You ready for this? I know it's baseball compared to football. Rickey Henderson is a baseball Hall of Famer. Take a guess how many teams he played for.
Probably about 10, 8.
Just give me a number.
I don't even care.
You ready? 13! What? He played for 13 teams. He's in the Baseball Hall of Fame, the hardest Hall of Fame to get into. 13 teams, and nobody will ever look at Rickey Henderson and say, nobody wanted him on their team. That's why he played for so many teams. I think Dan Fouts struck out. How about that?
So we're going baseball.
Well, I
to
just
football.
yeah.
Nice little pun.
You are a baseball
Like that?
guy. Dan Fouts summed up and nailed exactly why Terrell Eldorado Owens is not a Hall of Famer. He was the most disruptive force in the history of this league, and he wrecked 3 teams that had Super Bowl potential in his prime, and all 3 got rid of him in his prime because he was far more trouble than he was worth. And that's exactly what Dan Fouts summed up. So let's go back to all the other Hall of Famers you brought up. Did anybody ever get rid of Deion Sanders? No, they did not. He played the free agent game like we've seen Revis play it after.
Dallas cut him.
Yeah, but he was like 38 years
But
old.
that's not what you're saying.
Okay, but they're past their prime. Jerry Rice was 38 when San Francisco.
But somebody else still wanted him, Skip.
Wait a second. But San Francisco, Bill Walsh, they're begging him to retire as a 49er because he was he was showing his age.
Did you see him in
and then
Oakland?
he goes across. Yeah, and you know what? He ran little dink and dunk routes for Rich Gannon, and Rich Gannon won MVP that year, throwing to Tim Brown and Jerry Rice like 5-yard passes.
See what you're doing? This is what I'm talking about, and this is what Rob is seeing. You see how you make the excuses? He played for those teams.
Okay, he was 39 years old and 40 years old at the end of the line, and Rod Woodson played 10 great years in Pittsburgh, and they thought he was showing age. And when he finally went to Baltimore and then to Oakland in the end, he was doing it with his head more than his legs. You know it, and I know it. So
Peyton Manning was the most. So Peyton Manning is the most athletic guy.
Okay, but what?
So what's he doing it with? So what was Peyton Manning doing it with?
Okay, so I told you that Indy made the biggest mistake that Jim Irsay has ever made in his life. I said it the day he pushed him out the back door. He is going to regret this because this man's got a lot of football left in him, and he should have won 2 more MVPs and did win 1 more in Denver. So it's not a bad. He wasn't finished yet, and quarterbacks can play a lot longer, obviously, than other positions. But I have detailed for you, and these guys know it, and Chris Carter sat here and said 2 prominent coaches delivered messages to that Hall of Fame committee. This man does not belong in the Hall of Fame. And I was there in San Francisco. I used to be the biggest advocate publicly of Terrell Eldorado Owens until player after player pulled me aside in the locker room and said, "You have no idea what you're talking about." And finally, I started to see the light because he tore that team apart. They got rid of him in his prime as he was approaching age 30. And Philly said, "Oh, we'll take that." And Andy Reid said, "Watch what I can do with him." And right away, he turned on Andy Reid and he turned on Donovan McNabb the way I've never seen.
When was that, in the Super Bowl when they made it to the Super Bowl with him?
He was first team all.
Right.
Time out. They made it to the Super Bowl without Owens. He didn't even play.
He did play, didn't he play?
No, he didn't play in the 2 playoff games at home. They got there
Did he
without
play
him.
in the Super Bowl
okay,
game?
Well, trust me on this because I know those Eagles really well. I'm close friends with 3 prominent Eagles, and they all say to this day, he forced his way back in, and he was not ready to play. And Donovan was TO conscious against New England. It wasn't even a game. It wasn't that close. And he threw him 9 balls for 122 yards that did not matter in that game. Look, and Philly lost the game, so he didn't carry anybody to any Super Bowl games. And then it got so bad in Philly, Rob, do you remember what happened? They sent him home. They suspended him without pay and sent him home for the last 7 games of the year. And Bill Parcells says, "I do not want this man." He wouldn't even call his name in public. He called him the player. Jerry said, "We got to have him for box office." And it went south right away because Parcells wouldn't deal with Owens. Then Owens turned on the receiver coach, Todd Haley. They had an incident, and there was a near fight on the practice field because Terrell had called out Romo and Jason Witten. And Witten and Terrell almost
How does a
came
guy
to
that
blows.
bad, Skip, make it to 5 teams and put up the numbers that he put
Okay,
up?
I told
that's
you
the thing
the
that I don't
numbers are
understand.
Hall of Fame numbers. The behavior, the impact he had in the locker room and in the huddle and on the football field is not Hall of Fame behavior. I'm sorry, he's just speaking the truth. And I would love to hear from another friend of mine, James Lofton, because I think he would say the same thing about this guy. In his prime, he was gotten rid of by 3 teams, 3 really good teams.
Let's talk about this guy right here. So how do you feel about Brett Favre holding the Packers hostage for 4 years?
Every year.
And then hold on, Skip, hold on. Let me go ahead and make
Well, you asked me a question. I don't get to answer it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, at 38, after Aaron Rodgers had sat for 3 years being groomed to replace him. They finally pushed him out the back door. And what did he do? He went to Minnesota and had maybe his best year ever.
He went to the Jets and blew up the Jets. And remember
he did
that
not
season?
blow up the Jets.
They were 8-3.
He was hurt.
And he played anyway because of his streak.
Because
you remember
tore
that?
his biceps.
Because it just mattered about his streak instead of not playing.
And I want to commend him. But Brett Favre did have an addiction to Vicodin. He got that cleared up. And while he was at the Jets for 1 year, he sent a lewd message to a sideline reporter. Hold on.
Did that hurt the football team? No.
What about morality? Brett Favre is married with grandkids.
T.O.'s like the model citizen off the field. That's not, we're talking about impact in the locker room, in the huddle.
Hold on.
Tore apart 3 teams. Did Brett Favre tear that team apart?
You see
no.
That's the point I'm trying to make, and everybody's seeing, Joy. When they want you to get in, it doesn't matter what you did.
Exactly.
But when they want to keep you out, we played with 5 teams.
He kept himself out. As Chris Carter said the other day, his legacy is flawed. It's not that the process is flawed.
Well, they got a lot of people in there that need to come out then. They got a lot of them in there. They need to stop with this BS. It's a hall of stats. It's a hall of accomplishments. He's not trying to be a Vatican priest.
Did he help these teams win? He made them worse. He made he hurt them more than he helped them.
He hurt the Eagles when they got to the Super Bowl.
He didn't play in the 2 playoff games.
He played in the Super Bowl.
Hurt them in the Super Bowl. I told you he did.
Before T.O. arrived in Dallas, when was the last time they had been to the Super Bowl?
Well, then how many did he not leave them for dead after that? Because they crumbled after that.
Okay, what about Philly? I bet you, in the amount of time he spent 2 years in Philly, what was their record after he left? Dallas, he spent 4 years.
You're making my case for me. They fell apart.
He's not there.
He was the lightning rod. No, he left them for dead. I told you. Look at what happened to the 49ers after he left.
Hey,
tore them apart.
You see his
Trust
face?
me.
Hold up. You see his face in that San Francisco picture? Mm-hmm. That's me right now, Skip.
Yeah. Well, Dan Fouts was in that. You weren't in these meetings, were you? You should go next year.
I don't want to go.
Why not? You should sit in.
No.
You should hear all the arguments, pro and con.
There's no pro, there's no con. When this man came up for induction, they should have just stood up and sit down like they did Dan Marino and like they did John Elway. The guy stood up and said, okay, Dan Marino, and sat back down. This guy, how can you tell the story? How do you tell the story of the NFL with the 3rd greatest receiver, the 2nd greatest receiver, he's not in your hall? Man, Skip,
I think the NFL will survive. I think it'll be just fine.
No mercy. This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. That's it for all of us today at Undisputed. Remember, we come back tomorrow with Chris Broussard and Mr. No Way, No How, Rob Parker. And, of course, it's Friday, so it'll be hashtag Dance Party Friday. We'll see you then.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.